Hi, everybody, and welcome. I think this is our 10th Science of Triangles discussion. Of course, we're going through a section of the book, Esoteric Astrology, which will naturally inform us quite a bit about the solar systemic and the cosmic picture, and then bring us down to the consideration of the individual human being as well. I've been traveling quite a bit. I'm now in the United States, and I'm up here in Cottonwood, Arizona, at my son's place. And if I'm gasping a little bit for air, okay, the elevation is higher. I'll do my best. Let's just want to welcome everybody that's here. So far, people may join us: Annette, Antoinette, Karen, Lori, Michael, Tuija, and Veronica. Let's see if am I forgetting anything here? Yeah, and of course our staff, which would be Joe and myself. So this will be available to all of you and to your friends. Tia, welcome too. It will be put on Makara when we're finished. It's actually a lot of material, so I hope we can somehow grasp some of what's going on here, at least. It is a little complex, and it gets into the Tibetans' expertise on the energies of the planets, the constellations, the three great constellations, and also the creative hierarchies. He has this amazing understanding of the interlocking of all of the energies. So let's just, we'll pause for a moment, and we'll think of our etheric network on the planet, which is a growing network of triangles rather simply than squares. And our own work here with our little networks, whether it's one triangle or 5 or 10 or more, whatever, is part of this greater network. And what we're trying to do is understand the passage of the energies, the different ways that energies pass etherically into our planet and into our own etheric body, which is part and parcel of the etheric body of the planet. And on it goes. There's only one really etheric body in the entire universe, and this is responsible for the transmission of the energies to what we usually see as the solar system, the dense physical universe. Actually, the true universe is etheric. So more and more we will understand these things. Be patient with yourself. It takes a long time. It's going to take more than one life to know what Master DK knows. So we will patiently move ahead and combine our study of the science of triangles with an inevitable study of the sources of the triangle energies, and thus enter into astrology. Now, if you really want to get into the details, of course, I'll say different things now than I did before, but there is on Makara and also now on YouTube the entire book with my commentaries on every word and every sentence and every paragraph of esoteric astrology. So if you want to get into the details, it's all there, but there will be additional material that is discussed here. Also, I want to point out to you that Joe has kindly provided us with some handouts of some tabulations which are done neatly and clearly. And you'll find them that you can download them in your handout section. We'll be encountering them in the books, but not in so nice a form, not in a form that is so clear. So please do avail yourself of those if you would like to have them. So now let's begin our work together. And then, as questions arise in your mind, make note of them. And we'll have an opportunity, of course, for questions and statements, your opinions, your thoughts. And certainly when it comes to questions in this very arcane study, I'm certainly not saying that I have all the answers, hardly. But I'll give my best shot to them in trying to help us expand our understanding in general. So with that in mind, let's turn to where we left off last time. All I got to do is find it, right? Blah, blah, blah. That's one of Joe's. That's a nice one. All right, here it is. So we're starting number 10, and this is where I am. It's the 8th of March, but where some of you are the 9th of March, and we'll be recontinuing on the 23rd, getting closer to the conference all the time. And if I may say, I always put in a plug for the conference. This year's conference is on the second ray, which is the major ray of our planet, the second ray soul, and of the solar system. And it's all about the Buddha and the Christ. It's radiant wisdom, all-pervading love. The Buddha and the Christ, radiant wisdom, all-pervading love. And we would love to see you in person. I know it's not possible for all of you. You're far away. Some of you are making the trek all the way from Australia. And that's wonderful. I appreciate that so much, and from other parts of the world. But do your best to be there in person if you can. And if not, we'll be broadcasting, we'll be streaming most or many events from the conference so you can get an idea of what is transpiring. We're in a new venue that we started last year. It's in Chandler, Arizona, not far from the old one, but it's a very lovely place with an adjoining old town for all kinds of things, and love to see you there, okay? So now we kind of reviewed this descent of 6 levels of energy. The cosmic level with the great triangle of Great Bear, Pleiades, and Sirius, and we talked quite a bit about how Sirius is oftentimes considered a blind for the little bear. So the Great Bear represents in this great triangle, the first ray, the Pleiades, an august assembly of potencies, represents primarily the third ray, but there's really a 3-2-1 connected with it. And Sirius, or the little bear, represents the second ray. And then they transmit, as we have been discussing, through Leo, Capricorn, and Pisces. So this Great Bear and its line has to do with Shambhala. The Pleiades and its line, in this context, has to do with humanity, and Sirius and its line and the little bear has to do with the hierarchy, our spiritual hierarchy. And we went through some of the unusual features here, such as Uranus being, how do we understand it, part of the second ray line of descent. So these are the ways that the first, second, and third ray reach our planet and humanity, and even right down into our chakras in a very direct manner. The head center, the Ajna center, notice, humanity is that Ajna center. Sometimes it's considered the throat center. And of course, we're familiar with the idea that hierarchy is the planetary heart. And then it gets into our own, let's just say that the chart that Joe prepared for us is much neater than this, but here I can write in certain things. So in the Great Bear line comes our head center in the base of the spine. The head center at this point ruled by Uranus, and the base of the spine ruled by Pluto. One is purpose, the head center is purpose, and the base of the spine is will. And then our own ajna center and throat center, which are very closely related, and when you put them together, I never did add that up. That's kind of interesting. They come up either to 18 or to, let's see, 96 plus 16. I guess it would be 112. I'll have to analyze that at some point. And then the heart center and the solar plexus. So all the way from these great cosmic sources, these great cosmic triangles, the energy descends, and the very energy by which we will, by which we think and speak, by which we feel and extend ourselves in relationship and in unity, they're all ultimately coming from great cosmic sources. So that's, just a tiny little review, and I think, obviously, if you want to go over on Makara, what we discussed last time, there's a lot more there. Right, okay. Now, let's continue. The Tibetan is speaking here. I will also take up with you some of the points and indications which are hinted at in tabulation 9. Now, I hope that this is this tabulation 9? I'm not quite sure. Maybe it is. Let's just see. I can go over here to, let's see, right here. Yeah, tabulation 9. This is a wider chart, and it relates rays and the signs of the zodiac. And what I've done here is I've expanded this chart. You'll see in a minute why it is so, to include the hierarchical rulers. Now, somewhere in the book, all of the rulers are included. But in this tabulation 9, it only goes as far as the esoteric rulers, and of course the orthodox rulers. Okay. Anyway, tabulation 9 is coming up, and it's going to be found on page 423. And if we went into, let's see here, Esoteric Astrology 423. Okay, hold on. That's too many. 423. We would see that this tabulation is the one we're talking about, taking us only as far as the orthodox and esoteric rulers, but I've expanded this, and somewhere in the book he also has expanded this. We have to know these factors. You might say, well, why do I have to memorize all this? Well, it's like learning a language. We simply have to know the sources of the energies. And although it's a lot of sort of fifth ray concretizing work, it's necessary to feed the memory with these factors so that they can form a support for our more creative thinking. Certain major streams of conditioning energies will be seen related to each other and to our Earth, and these fall into two groups. So let's see what they are. Now, the first of these, and maybe the most important and most related to the second ray in general, are the ray energies. The 7 ray energies are particularly related to the second ray, and the plethora of astrological factors are more related to the general third ray approach. Now, on our planet and in our individual nature, we're doing our best to put together the second and third ray. Obviously, the soul of our planet, second ray, the personality, third ray, we have to blend, integrate, infuse, harmonize. That's what's going on here as well. So from a certain perspective, solar systemically and cosmically, we're trying to put together the energies of the constellations, representing more the third ray in general, and the energies of the rays, 7 rays, representing the second ray in general. This is a big planetary job, and it has to do with our previous major solar system, which was under the third ray, and our present major solar system, which is largely under the second ray. So what's our overall task in all of these studies is to blend at this time the second and the third ray in a large and general sense, whatever your rays may be, which means really to emerge here with a soul-infused personality. And eventually, of course, we'll take up the monadic work, which will bring in the spirit, but we're not there yet. And in fact, our planet is not even there yet. The first ray monad of our planet is occultly non-effective because we are not living yet on a sacred planet. And when we have taken a kind of fifth initiation on this planet, that's when that monadic ray will really be powerful. But not yet, not yet. It's behind the scenes, and it is somewhat influential if you can see it, but it's like the monad in our own little individual system. For those who can see it working, it's working through the etheric body, the astral body, the mental body. It's working, but it's not the most prominent factor. First, the soul energy has to be brought in. Okay, so these energies are falling into two groups, and he's going to give us a tabulation on these. The rays which come from the Great Bear, 7 great outraying streams of force coming from 7 major stars, really 8 major stars. I wonder, see, here's from from the Wikipedia, we see that the second star is really a double, which is very interesting because you have, it's the love-wisdom assembly of energies, and one is love and one is wisdom. And maybe, well, I don't know if I should hazard a guess here which is which, but let's just say Mizar is the greater of the two, and wisdom is perhaps more established than love. But we have the various stars of the Great Bear, and they are, let's see what's going on here. Here they are. Al-Qaid, first ray. Alcor and Mizar, second ray. Alioth, it's out of alignment, and it causes trouble. It's the third ray star. Megrez is rather faint, and it's the fourth ray star, and perhaps has something to do with the way the fourth ray is operating in our solar system. Not as powerfully as it might. Dubhe, the fifth ray star, connected with Leo, very powerful, very important. Merak, the sixth ray star, connected with Aries, powerful and important. And finally, the seventh ray star, Phegda. What's interesting about many of these stars is that they all have their own color, and there is something about every star which is carrying the color of its ray, and that's an amazing. I mean, there are green stars, there are purple stars. I mean, all of the spectral types are there. So that's yet another study for us. But to memorize, hate to ask it of you, but to memorize the names of the sources of the 7 rays for our solar system and local cosmos at least is a requirement. So do your best to commit these 8 names to memory, and you'll know from whence the 7 great streams of energy come, and the many triangles that result in the combinations of these. For instance, for sure, Al-Qaid, Alcor Mizar, and Alioth. That is a major triangle of the first 3 aspects of divinity. Well, it's all a hugely complex and wonderful system, and we can be counted on to understand it if we are patient with ourselves. Obviously, there are 3 great presentations on the second ray. the second ray sub 1, second ray sub 2, and second ray sub 3. The Tibetan is presenting to us, I believe anyway, to a great extent, on the second ray sub 3. And this gives us the meticulous entirety and the comprehensive detail and the detailed unity of all of the interlocking streams of force. That's his great forte, a very practical man, and at the same time, one who has this expansive cosmic view. Second ray sub 2 is another triangle. It's the Christ. Second ray sub 1, it's the Buddha. So in a way, we have kind of a combination here, a triangle of great teachers. We have the Buddha, the Christ, and the Tibetan. And we have Master Kuthumi aligned very much with the Christ, and with the Buddha, others, but at least to consider the first, second, and third subrays as a triangle of the second ray. Okay, so now here are these two groups of energy. Generally speaking, the rays are considered to be higher energies than the 12. The 7 is superior to the 12, and there is a derivation somewhere in the Cosmic Fire book. I won't get into it in great detail, how the 12 can be derived from the 7. And also there's a derivation of how the 7 can be derived from the 3. And that, of course, I think I know more about, but I'll leave that go for a minute. Well, maybe I won't leave it go. Let's just say there's the first, second, and third ray. But if we look at the fourth ray, it's a combination, in my view, of the second and the first ray. If we look at the fifth ray, it's a combination of the first and third ray. If we look at the sixth ray, it's a combination of the second and third ray. And if we look at the seventh ray, it is a combination of all three in equal measure. So let's just say, if I do this, ray 1, ray 2, and ray 3, just for your edification, and mine. So ray 4 is a combination of ray 1 and ray 2. There is the harmony side and there is the conflict side. Ray 5 gives us a combination of ray 3 and ray 1 and ray 3. And let's just say that if you're a fifth ray soul, you eventually resolve onto the first ray. There's a definite relation. And if you look at the Pythagorean tetractys, you'll see the fifth dot is right under the first dot. So it shows us that connection. Ray 6 gives us the combination of the ray 2, the love part, and ray 3, the activity part. Now, some people might opt for the switching of what I've done here and switch ray 4 for ray 6, but this is the way it seems to come up for me. And ray 7 is ray 1, ray 2, and ray 3 in equal measure. So, the balanced ray 7 type is able, therefore, to synthesize many different kinds of rays on the physical plane. And triangles come out of all of this as well, obviously. We're just surrounded by triangles. It's just a question of which are the most impactful for humanity at this time, because, our minds cannot race over the entire universe. I mean, we can speculate a little, but the important thing is finally working out the triangles within our etheric body and within our monad, soul, and personality, our fundamental triangle. So the ray energies are there. And then the other group of energies, the inherent energies of the 12 constellations, which blend with the ray energies, producing the essential dualism of manifested life. And, that's a mysterious phrase, because after all, these are all energies. And see, what we know about dualism at least on our planet and with respect to the human kingdom, is that the Deva kingdom and the human kingdom provide a fundamental duality. And I am of the thought at this moment that the Deva kingdom is more related to the zodiac and the rays to the human kingdom. And you know, the number 10 is extremely important. The number 10 is the 7 plus the 3, and if you look at the tree of life in the Kabbalah, you'll always see that triangle, you know, Keter, Chochmah, and Bina, hovering above the 7. So wherever there's a 7, there's a 10. So, and if you look at how you combine those, we have the 12. Let's see if I got this correct, and we have the 7 plus the 3. And that equals the mystical number, magical number 22. It's so completely important. So for the moment, I'm hypothesizing that the zodiac, which represents the heart and the head, the middle principle of the causal body, is that relationship between, you see. And the Deva kingdom particularly has the 2 rays, the second and the third, whereas the human kingdom has the first and the second. They both meet on the second ray. So when it comes to creating unity, relationship, extension in space, I believe the number 12 is very important, and it takes us all the way around the zodiac. And the number 10 is more the destroyer in an interesting kind of way and is related to humanity. That is my thought on this at the moment. Of the 10 plus the 12, well, you know, what do we have here? The zodiac, we have the 7 rays, and we have the 3 great constellations, and they produce the 3 great constellations. Let us call them the Great Bear, the Little Bear, and the Pleiades, and they are the super constellations, and together all of these make up the mystical number 22. Okay, so anyway, and he says further that the blending of these 2 systems of energy are incidentally responsible for the peculiar difficulties confronting humanity on the arc of evolutionary experience upon our planet. And you know, I would say in general that this is the, let's see if I got this correctly, the reconciliation of the human and Deva kingdom. The human kingdom, let's see if I put that HK, human kingdom and the Deva kingdom. Maybe I should have capitals for all of that. And this reconciliation, you know, it's a big battle because the Deva aspect of our nature, the lower part, the elemental part, wants to sort of trap us in the lower worlds. But when you begin to climb into the causal body, there's a blend of the Deva and human, and by the time we reach the monadic level, we have a real union of the 2. So on the astral plane, there's conflict. On the Buddhic plane, there's harmonization. On the monadic plane, there is unification. And then this very difficult task of blending these 2 aspects of evolution will be fulfilled by that time. So anyway, the way DK sees it is that the zodiacal signs, or let's just say actually the constellations, are the source of the energy, and the signs are concentrations of energy with respect to our Earth, that the zodiacal signs and the 7 rays constitute the essential dualism of our life and the difficulties involved. And I don't know how many of us have thought about, you know, what's it like to reconcile our astrological chart with our ray chart. But right there, we will have an issue with the rays supposedly dominating. I remember once long ago, you know, I was just tremendous astrological buff and somehow really into it. And I thought that the astrological factors were necessarily superior. But I've changed my opinion on that. And it's like reconciling the second and the third rays with the seven rays representing the second ray and the host of astrological factors representing the third ray. And of course, the triangle will not be complete until the monad gets into the picture, and it has its representations as well. So, ponder on this. Now, all of this, went in here and I wrote a few little things in blue. The Tibetan is in black at this point, and whatever I'm saying as commentary is in blue. All of this is taking place within the head center of the one about whom naught may be said. Now, let me try to explain that. The zodiac of constellations is the heart in the head center of the one about whom naught may be said, our supercosmic logos, in whom basically our whole local cosmic system is living and moving and having its being. The seven stars of the Great Bear are the seven internal head centers in the one about whom naught may be said, and we have that too. We have seven etheric head centers within our own etheric head, and we have to blend those with the energies of the 12 petals of the heart in the head center. So it's true for the great being, it's true for humanity, and it's true for every single human being. We have to somehow blend these major chakras inside the head with the 12 petals called the heart in the head center that are in our great 1,000-petal lotus. So humanity has the same type, and the blending must occur of the 12 energies in the heart and the head and the 7 energies of the 7 head centers, which are within the head of a great logos of humanity as a whole or of the individual human being. So I think you can trace the analogy. This is the blending, of the 7 and the 12. And then, of course, we are going to have something that's going to round it out to 22. Again, says the Tibetan, I would repeat that what I have to say will be related to present world conditions. Now, remember, this was written in the 1930s. It's a long time ago, but these solar systemic and planetary and cosmic factors, they don't just change overnight. Okay, will be related to present world conditions, to humanity, and also for practical teaching and application, just as in a treatise in white magic, to the life of the individual disciple. Now that's where maybe in a way we have to be most concerned as we try to get our vehicles of response into fit condition to actually carry out the divine plan in our own little sphere. Necessarily, these energies have a cosmic and systemic and planetary significance. So, but these, no disciple can as yet grasp. Maybe some initiates can grasp this. He's given us hints, and we can begin, I think, a little bit to grasp the nature of the cosmic, systemic, and planetary triangles, but not really in the kind of depth where we truly understand the mysteries of these relationships. Now, this is interesting. When can we possibly grasp these higher things? Personality has to be transcended before even the earlier stages of understanding of these mysteries becomes possible. So there we have the whole idea that the ancient authority of the personality must die, and that takes place at the 3rd degree. And I wonder, here it is. This is, by the way, if you go into the rays and initiations, and you go to page 685 and 686, you will find wonderful summations about the kind of freedom that comes when we have the different initiations taking place. So, notice here the birth, the first three initiations are what concern us most at this time. The birth initiation, birth of the Christ in the heart, freedom from the control of the physical body and its appetites. Initiation 2, the baptism, freedom from the control of the emotional nature and the selfish sensitivity of the lower self. And then what we're talking about here, to begin to grasp these larger visions, is the transfiguration, which is the first solar initiation. Up till that time, they are planetary initiations. This is the first solar initiation, transfiguration, freedom from the ancient authority of the threefold personality, making or marking a climaxing moment in the history of all initiates. So do review this, and I've made commentary on this in the video commentary on the last half of the book, The Rays and the Initiations. When it comes to the rules, I've done all that in a written commentary, and you can find all of this on Makara if you like. But this is the kind of beginning point we need in order to begin to grasp the larger relationships. We need to be free from this, the modifications of our elemental life, whether it's mental, emotional, or etheric, physical, elemental, free from those modifications before we can really begin to see, and before divine vision opens up before us, as it will on the Buddhic plane, and also the factor of realization as it will begin to open up to us on the atmic plane. Okay, so go to those pages. They are wonderful, and they give you lots to ponder on. Okay, so we're talking about transcendence. This transcendence is something you have not yet accomplished, but which someday inevitably you will. So although Master DK does train a little bit, some, for the third initiation, his major training is offered along the line of the first and second initiations, and during the Aquarian age, those are excuse me, those are the initiations which are going to be offered publicly, at least to those who can understand that. The first and second degree, and they'll be offered by the Christ, which is an amazing thought. The first initiator will stand before the initiate in an outer public ceremony. Maybe, given in the Masonic lodges or in the new church of the New World Religion, and maybe it related to the esoteric schools. All three groups, another triangle, the Masonic organism, the religious organism, and the banded esoteric organisms, that's another triangle, and they will all offer their candidates for initiation. So we're talking about seeing some really big things here. And, hopefully we will say to ourselves, well, although these are very big considerations, they do have a relationship to my life. And even though they seem very sort of solar systemic and cosmic and beyond my own personal life, I do have an interest in them, because increasingly I'm going to be living in a world where these energies are making a very powerful impact. And we get used to that by the full moon work that we do, where we are coming in contact with these energies over a 3-day, 5-day, 7-day period. The hierarchy does it for the whole month, 14 days up, 14 days down, or, they have a huge rhythm, but we are becoming more and more acquainted with these energies in a practical manner. So you know, when can we begin to appreciate these higher triangles, these higher sources? And he tells us, once man is impersonal and free from the reactions of the lower self, which one of us can say that we are free? Don't think we can. And his consciousness is illumined by the clear light of the intuition, the clear cold light, as it has been called in the rules. It is cold to the usual elemental reactions, and it is not affected by those personal reactions. And of course, it's very clear the Buddhic energy is clarity itself and truth. Then his window of vision becomes clarified, and his sight into reality is unimpeded. Sounds very tempting, doesn't it? There was a man who was having a lot of trouble with glamour. He was a third race soul, one of the only ones in the Tibetans group, and DK gave him the analogy of a window, and he says, "You've got to clean your window. It's all fogged up. It's all there's like icicles on your window. And please make it clear so you can see the world truly as it is." And he would go on with this analogy of the window, which is called the window of vision for this man. LTSK were his disciplic names. He had a lot of six rays, so that was the glamour producing factor in his nature. And he said, okay, your window is now a little clearer. Then he'd write the next instruction is, oh, your window is fogged up again. Your window is no longer clear. And so all of us are trying to clarify our sight. And so the Buddhic plane has a great deal to do with the clarification of sight. And any true psychic needs to have the Buddhic contact to make sure that the astral imagery does not run away with himself or herself and lead into error. So anyway, we've got to recognize somehow how very much our personality nature impedes our higher sight. Glamour, illusion, and Maya arise. And we must abstract ourselves and calm the three different fields so that they no longer present an impediment. In a way, here's another triangle. This is a lower triangle of obstruction, and we see that in some of the labors of Hercules. We see it in the three-headed dog, and I think somewhere in the labor of Pisces, its triple nature is shown, and in the labor of Aquarius, the stables of the king Augeas or Alpheus had three different levels of accumulation. So the lower three are a very important triangle of obstruction at first and then of service later. He says obstructions always erected by humanity itself, as we exercise our faculties and they're not developed and we get confused and we misinterpret and we exaggerate or we minimize or we get chaotic, all those different things arise in our use of our lower faculties, and they are obstructions to divine vision, to the truth. So obstructions are removed, and he sees all life and form in their true relation and can comprehend and even occultly see the passage of the energies. And I get inspired when I see that phrase, the passage of the energies. And there's a beautiful place on page 167 of the astrology book, which I'm going to read, and you'll see what I mean. I put it in a different color. From the above few points, hints can be gathered together as to the interlocking forces of all the 12 constellations, remember, carrying the 7 rays, as they pour into and through the kingdoms of in nature, carrying with them also not only their own individual potencies, but also those of the 7 rays, focused through the sacred and non-sacred planets and the discovered and undiscovered planetary lives, of which there are many. Now here's this beautiful statement, and it is consummation towards which we can aspire, as one day it will be ours. It has been occultly said that a vision of these powers and their many weaving lines, seen as rivers and streams of light, is given to the initiate from the mountaintop of Capricorn, once that summit has been reached. It is at the Transfiguration initiation. But remember, Capricorn rules all 5 initiations, but it's particularly associated with the Transfiguration initiation. It is at the Transfiguration initiation that the vision appears before the eyes of the astounded disciple. The great experiences upon the various mountaintops, as related in the Bible, have all to do with Capricorn. Moses, the lawgiver on Mount Sinai, is Saturn in Capricorn, imposing the law of karma upon the people. And, from various, I think, quite solid methods of interpretation, the Moses was considered to be an earlier incarnation of the Master Moria. So anyway, here's this beautiful discussion of the passage of the energies, what we will one day see from that inner altitude of transfiguration. I mean, we're not literally going to climb a mountain. Some people might do that, but it's within oneself that the passage of the energies is seen. And when we study the signs of triangles, remember how much Capricorn has to do with the third ray, as well as the first and seventh. We will come closer and closer to seeing what those energies which are passing may be. The relationship of certain rays and cosmic triangles may become clearer to you if the following tabulation is studied with care. Now, I'm not really going to get into this immense tabulation until the next time. And I'm not even sure that at the next time we can finish it. And then what do I mean by finish it anyway? So, this is the one that, one of these is the one that Joe has given us. It's very good. And here's the one I've just kind of been working from, where I added the hierarchical ruler at the farther end. But let's at least lead up to this, and then maybe speak out the 7 major zodiacal triangles which carry the 7 major rays. And I'll try next time to offer a discussion, or at least an interpretation, of why those particular planets are connected with that particular sign of the zodiac and with the ray that is coming through it. So that's a very, very big study, and I feel that it must be undertaken on its own. Okay, so now here's a note, and I will bring that forward. The 7 stars of the Great Bear are the originating sources of the 7 rays of our solar system. And remember, Mizar and Alcor, they're a double. They're at least they're a visual double, with Alcor being the weaker star as far as we're concerned in terms of its visual magnitude, and Mizar being the brighter star. Now, let's remember that these 7 rays are not originating with these 7 or 8 stars, not by a long shot. But for us, and in our solar system, and in our local neighborhood, these 7 or 8 stars representing the internal etheric head centers of the one about whom not may be said, they are our sources. But if we were to look further, we would find all kinds of greater beings who are the sources of septenates, of sevens. We would find Oh gosh, sometimes when I look at this, I look at here. Let me go over here. Okay, all right. If I can get this, when I look at this thing, and this map on page 344 of 344 of A Treatise on Cosmic Fire. And by the way, as I say, this was prepared by Keith Bailey long ago in terms of the coloring and so forth. So it gives us a lot of hints. Our huge unknown, or one about whom naught may be said, is this little green triangle. At least that's my interpretation. And beyond that, what do we have? I mean, what is each one of these circles? 7 of them. What kind of cosmic structures within our galaxy do they represent? And I call them a sub-para-Brahmanic logos, because on the top of it all is what's called a cosmic para-Brahman. And of course, there obviously have to be 7 of those as well. And on until we reach the level of the galaxy itself. So what are these structures that are producing the 7s, which finally work their way down into this minuscule little asterism we call the Great Bear, yet for us is a huge source? So galaxies are grouped into 7s, and families of galaxies are grouped into 7s, and on until we reach the highest level of the universe. It says the universe has 10 dimensions. I don't know, what they would be, but when we reach the very highest levels, the supreme septonate of the cosmic logos, or what do we want to call them, the universal logos, that's where the 7 rays are really coming from. And they work their way down and down and down and down until it just comes right into our own etheric head and into our normal chakric system and so forth, into the organs of our body. From the very highest down here to the lowest, the septonates of what become the 7 rays are active and are producing the descent of the number 7. So that's something to consider. And remember, down here again, I said for every 7 there's a 3. Well, there's a picture of it. There's the 7 on the circles on the monadic plane. They're oftentimes called circles. And the 3 circles or triangles, let's say, on the logoic plane. This is a unit of 10. It's like a miniature, well, it's not miniature, it's a huge tree of life. All right. So, just going on, and then I'll quit here. The 7 rishis, of course, a rishi is a great teacher. Excuse me. The 7 rishis, as they are called, of the Great Bear express themselves through the medium of the 7 planetary logoi, who are their representatives and to whom they stand in the relation of a cosmic prototype. Well, we might look at the soul ray, let us say. We're talking about the 7 sacred planets. We're talking about, let's say we're talking about Bennett Nash. I'll give you an idea. We're talking about Al-Qaid or Bennett Nash, 2 names, expressing through Vulcan. We're talking about Alcor and Mizar expressing through Jupiter, the 2nd ray soul of Jupiter. We're talking about Alioth expressing through the 3rd ray soul of Saturn. Megrez expressing through the 4th ray soul of Mercury. Dubé expressing through the 5th ray soul of Venus. Merak expressing through the 6th ray soul of Neptune, and Phegda expressing through the 7th ray soul of Uranus. So what we're doing here is tying the energies of the 7 major stars of the Great Bear, 7, 8, to the 7 sacred planets. And the stars are the prototypes to these sacred planets. Now, I've asked a question here, and it's an important question because it has to do with our local cosmos, There are 7 solar systems of which ours is one. Now, I'm not going to try to number these in order or even necessarily include them all, but we have our own sun. We have Alpha and Beta Centauri of the Centaur. We have Procyon. We have Altair. We have Vega. We probably have, what's the name of that? Fomolo, possibly a local star. I'm leaving something out, but anyway, these stars around us are part of what's called the 7 solar systems, of which ours is one. And Sirius can also be included in that. And somehow, those great bare ray sources come through these 7 as well. See, what's coming through our solar system? Well, maybe right now it's a second ray soul. So something from Mizar and Alcor is coming right into our solar system and then going to other planets like Jupiter with its second ray soul and so forth. So it's all a great continuum of energies. So the 7 planetary gods manifest through the medium of the 7 sacred planets. They're all beings of intelligence, love, and power. And each of these 7 rays is transmitted into our solar system through the medium of 3 constellations and their ruling planets. And here's the tabulation. And there's also, as I say, Joe has provided us with a better picture, but if I go looking for that right now, I'm going to get lost, and that would not be desirable. Anyway, you have this in your handouts, a much better picture, much neater, etc. So that's where we will stop this time, thinking of the 7 rays from the 7 major stars, thinking of the 7 solar systems of which ours is one, thinking of the 7 sacred planets of our solar system which receive these 7 rays, and all the interlocking triangles between them. It's truly a vast and complicated system. And you're probably familiar with this, but I said I would just say it, and next time we're going to examine it. Will or power comes through Aries, Leo, and Capricorn. Love, wisdom through Gemini, Virgo, and Pisces. Recognize the mutable cross. Active intelligence through Cancer, Libra, Capricorn, all on the cardinal cross. Harmony through conflict, Taurus, Scorpio, and Sagittarius. Concrete science, Leo, Sagittarius, and Aquarius. Idealism or devotion, Virgo, Sagittarius, Pisces. And ceremonial order, Aries, Cancer, and Capricorn, again, all on the cardinal cross. Now we're going to, I anticipated we might get farther, but we're not. So this is the end of our academic discussion on the science of triangles, going carefully through this section dedicated to that. And so I'll just call this the end of 9 March, and the next thing will be, the beginning of the science of triangles, number 11, and that's going to be on the 23rd of March, one day before, by the way, Moria Remembrance Day. On the 24th of March, he says, if you want to remember me on March 24th. So obviously, Master Moria is very connected with that first ray line of energy. Aries, which, March 24th, Leo, the great king, and Capricorn, the law. Okay, friends, so that will be it. And now, I know I tend to go on these things. There's a lot one could think about and say, but you've been gathering your questions, perhaps, or you have been thinking about what we've been discussing, and maybe you have a thought you would like to offer or a question you would like to ask, and then next time we will get into this amazing tabulation which shows not only the way the seven rays enter in various ways into our solar system, colored by various constellations, because the ray, in a way, is a superior factor, but the ways that the different levels of planets, all triangular, are further conduits for these rays. And, obviously you can begin to compare this with your own horoscope. But I want to say one thing: do not go to your horoscope first and hope that it will tell you what your rays are. First of all, it won't tell you what your soul ray is, nor will it tell you what your monadic ray is. So you have to know the rays first. And in the astrology chapter on Scorpio, he pretty well says that. Learn your soul ray, then see how it works out astrologically. Learn your personality ray and see how it works out astrologically. So, all right, there's a lot to learn. If you have any thoughts, any questions, if I'm not alert to your raised hand, then Joe will catch you. So we've been dealing with some interesting material. Are there any thoughts about this? How the rays are put together to make the rays of aspect are put together to make the rays of attribute, how to look at deva and human in terms of constellations and rays, the various the various parts of the head of the great logos of humanity and of the individual human being, overcoming the personality in order to see clearly, and the passage of the energies seen at the transfiguration. And, well, I think that's pretty much it. The 7 stars of the Great Bear, the 7 suns, of which ours is one, and the 7 major sacred planets in our solar system. Your thoughts, if you have anything you'd like to bring up or look at this point, and don't be intimidated by this material. It is, complex. It is demanding, but it is doable, and no question is unimportant. All questions and all thoughts on the subject are of value, so just, if anything's occurring to you, please share it, okay? I'm looking for your hand to be raised if you are raising your hand. And, yeah. Okay. Sometimes it's like you have to really steep in a subject before it begins to soak in. Starling Hunter has been involved in this triangles work for a long time. He's maybe done more on triangles than anyone I know, and he has some compilations in which he has gathered here over 8 pages a number of zodiacal triangles. We're going to go over these and see what they tell us. But first of all, we'll do what the Tibetan says, and then we'll deal with these other kinds of triangles and why they represent what they do represent. We're very grateful to him for his compilational work. It's been very helpful. Okay. Oh, there you go. Tuija. Oh, wait a second. Okay, now you're self-muted, dear, so please unmute yourself. There you go. All right.
Okay.
Hi.
Okay. Hello to everybody. Good morning from Finland. This is only from that one idea, and that is a technical question. And I don't know has it any value, but I was just thinking when you were talking about this, how the ray is manifesting and how one could use one's chart. Is there any point when one has been at least having a hypothesis of one's own race, and let's say like soul, thinking about the ascendant and their rulers, and this triangle, what then this sign would be forming with the other two, to see where they are in the chart, in which kind of life area, via the rooms, houses, I mean, and where we find their rulers.
Yes, all that can relate to soul energy, all of that, yeah.
Yeah, I was just thinking about this manifestation, how the ray is manifesting, that how one could maybe seeing where one has challenges in this manifestation, or supporting, or somehow get into that, how the ray is working in one's own life.
Yes, and it takes a lot of meditation, like in your own case, let's just say your first ray soul. Okay, so, and you have a Leo rising sign. So that's one of the first ray, signs. And you would look particularly for two rulers. You would look for the sun veiling Neptune for the esoteric side, and to the degree that it's possible to enter into the spirit aspect, you would look for the sun veiling Uranus. Now, in your own case, they're in a square and they're quite strong. Now, and then you would look at the first ray triangle in general. And that first ray triangle is Aries, Leo, and Capricorn. Well, you happen to have an Aries singleton Mars all by itself, which is a very powerful first ray indication in Aries. Then you look at the fact that you are born in the sign Capricorn with Mercury and Venus also in Capricorn. So let's just say that the soul, in your case, has a very easy and direct, I shouldn't say easy, okay, but it's certainly a very direct means of transmission through the chart. Okay, now, and I just want to make a point here. My daughter, Heidi, and some of you know her, she has the same kind of thing. She has a Leo rising, Sun in Aries, and Moon in Capricorn. But she's a second ray soul. Okay? So the way that the ray goes through that first ray triangle is much modified. And we would have to look for where is the second ray triangle. The rising sign, Leo, yes, but we would interpret it in a second ray manner. And then we would look for the 3 second ray constellations, which would be Gemini, Virgo, and Pisces. So it depends on your soul ray. Now, in your particular case, you have a very straight through means of progression for the first ray soul. And so, but know the soul ray first. And then, of course, the rulers, the rulers of each one of your soul ray triangle. Like, for instance, in your particular case, what is Mercury doing in relation to Aries? What is Neptune doing in relation to Leo? What is Saturn doing in relation to Capricorn? That's
exactly.
a soul triangle.
Yeah, that is what I was thinking, because when one thinks about manifestation, how it really comes into being down here, would be then the planets to study, because that is like one step down from the sign itself. That's right. I think it will be becoming very interesting in that sense to really begin to study one's own chart, that where do we have the challenges and what we should be learning, or what is the area where the soul is functioning and so forth.
Yeah, this is an esoteric study, and obviously you cannot apply it to people who are still just thinking about personality fulfillment. because they're just working on an entirely different level. So although the potentials are there, those potentials will not show until their own consciousness and energy system rises to the level of those potentials. So that's why it's very important to know where a person is on the path before you can begin to interpret these triangles in an esoteric manner. Now, I do want to mention for everybody, I'm not going to get into an astrological chart, but there is a supreme triangle in your astrological chart. It consists of your sun sign, your rising sign, and the point opposite your sun sign. The point opposite. So I'll give you an example in my own case. I have the sun in Aries. It represents a lot of the personality energy. I have the rising sign in Cancer, which is meant to demonstrate a certain quality of soul energy in this incarnation. I have the point opposite the sun in Libra, and whatever monadic energy I can bring through is colored by the Libra quality. If I think I have a third ray monad, which I do think I do, the fact that Libra distributes the third ray makes it possible to come in quite strongly through that point opposite the sun sign. So this kind of triangular interpretation has to do with the spirit. DK says, if you want consciousness, look for stars. If you want physicality, look for squares. If you want spirit, look for triangles. This is what he's telling us. And he says the charts of the masters, or the charts the masters have of us, are based upon those three geometrical figures, the triangle, the star, and the square. So you can find out how the different parts of your nature are working out in any one horoscope, because you won't always have the same sun sign, and therefore your point opposite the sun will be different, and whatever monadic energy you can bring through will use a different sign. You won't always have the same rising sign. So your soul, whatever its ray, will use the qualities of different rising signs in different incarnations, and thus it is also for the sun sign as the personality indicator. So,
Michael,
yes, go ahead, dear.
excuse me. Did you finish your thing?
It's never finished. Go ahead.
I was thinking about that triangle also, which is very important, which is the ascendant, the sun, and also the moon. So there is like the lower arc of the triangle.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
In what point you would be saying this when one would be studying now that crater triangle that you were expressing with the monadic point?
We can all study what you just mentioned. We can all study the soul, the personality, and the elemental nature represented by the moon. We can all study that.
Because that is like the first step where we are thinking about our life problem and trying to understand how we should evolve and what are our challenges is to study the moon.
Exactly.
And then the opposite is like, I'm just thinking like a diamond figure of these two triangles. The one which is pointing down would be look like that the moon is on the downward pointing triangle, the apex, and then the upward going down triangle would be the monadic point.
I think we could work some of that out so it was significant. I'll only say this for all of us. When we begin to build the Antakarana, we are starting on a path which leads us to the monad. At first, it will lead us to the abstract mind and then to intuition and some grasp of spiritual will, and it can take a number of lives, but finally that Antakarana will begin leading to the monad. And let's just say that if you know or find yourself around the initiation of the third degree, which is maybe not so common among all of us at this time, you know you can begin to think about the monadic influence. Okay, basically, he tells us that between the second and third initiation, you can begin to, you're building the antikarana, and you can begin to use that point opposite the sun sign in that way. Now, look, from another perspective, the point opposite the sun sign can be used in a much more practical way. That, it may be a blind spot for you, and you may be so identified with your sun sign that you don't see the opposite qualities well. And you can round out your personality by incorporating those problems. In other words, let's say Aries people are aggressive. They need the harmonizing influence and the social influence of Libra. You see, and you can go around the zodiac and say, I can use the point opposite the sun sign in a regular building manner, which is not associated with the monad, but simply with improving the quality of my personality as it receives the energy of the soul. And I recommend that to everybody. It's important to incorporate the normal qualities of the sign opposite the sun sign. But later, when the antikarana is really being built, and when the issue of spirit is becoming important and all the rest of it, then you can start to think of that point as representing the monad. Thank you, Tuija. Other thoughts, friends? Other thoughts? We all stand to learn a lot by reviewing this book. Not only will we understand the science of triangles increasingly, but the greatest and oldest of all the sciences, esoteric astrology, will begin to be increasingly meaningful to us. And that's a good thing, Tibetan's an expert astrologer of the esoteric type, and we can learn from him, I think, very, very, very well. Okay, even though the altitude is high here, I managed to get enough air to talk. If I was broadcasting this from Flagstaff, which is another 3,000 or 4,000 feet up, I might talk a whole lot less. Okay, well, keep these things in mind. If there are no other questions or statements, whatever, then I'll just go to a little rounding out meditation. But let me it's a new language, friends. Just like he says, the language of the soul doesn't really exist yet, and especially not the language of the monad. It doesn't exist. And he's presenting us with a deeper type of astrological language which underlies the whole science of triangles. So give yourself time. Be patient with yourself and allow it all to sink in. It will sink in. If it takes more than one life to learn esoteric astrology, right? And we're all just beginners in this greatest and oldest of all the sciences. And of course, the whole science of triangles underlies the expression of the universal soul. So that's a huge science in itself, and the science of relationships somehow embraces all of that. And we're on our way to learn these things, but be patient with yourself. Have a well-stocked mind. Whatever your ray may be, use the fifth ray to concretize your knowledge so that you can be sure of what you're dealing with and not vague about it and all that. Just use the concretizing power of the mind as a foundation for greater intuitive spiritual understanding. Okay? All right, this will all be put on Makara. Brett is still helping us with this, and if you have, I'm just going to put out the word, how we do the streaming at conference, and some of you I can see will be at conference. If you know somebody who's coming to conference or who would be willing to come to conference and do the job that Brett usually does, streaming the various programs, please let me know. We're looking for the right person to do that job that requires a lot of concentration. Brett has done it for many years, and now we need uh, a couple people, maybe even 3 people, or maybe one very heroic person to do that. Please let us know if you can help us with that, because it's a very important function, reaching out to you. So even if you can't be at the conference physically, you can be in the psychic and mental and spiritual atmosphere of the conference. Okay, friends, then we're going to just have a little closing triangles meditation. Now, remember that Tuija gives these much nicer, fuller musical renditions, of the triangles meditation. They're really beautiful. But this is just to remind us of who we are and what we're doing. And if I had thought of it, I would have put an image here. And I don't know if I can. No, I'm not going to go running for that. What I'll do is I'll put up, here it is. This is part of Joe's tabulation here. Okay, and I can't get the whole thing on here, but at least I don't know how to do it yet, but you get the idea. So let's just think together a little bit and realize that throughout our etheric body, there is a host of triangles, either completed or in formation. The lower triangles are certainly completed, and the higher triangles are in process of being rounded out and completed. Maybe the head, heart, and throat are a major first, second, third rate triangle. And in our planet, with all the kingdoms of nature present, all kinds of triangles are existing within the kingdoms and between the kingdoms. And when you look at what's going on in a deeper sense within our Earth scheme, you see how many different triangles are found in different ways between the different globes. And if we went to our solar system, we find all these interlocking triangles. Let's see. I think I just have to stay with that for the moment. There's a better one, but in our solar system and between the stars of our local 7 solar systems, all these stars are related triangularly to all the others. They're kind of like a stellar chain of 7. The structure continues, and cosmically it continues in ways that we cannot fathom. Triangles everywhere. And our own little connection with 2 other people that we work with as soul-infused personalities, soul-infused to a degree. Our own little connections here are part of the much bigger connections until we are consciously part of a great planetary triangles network which goes on and on through the system and the cosmos and beyond. So just think of your little group of triangles, even if it's simply one triangle, and how goodwill is transmitted through the triangles, love and goodwill, and how light, spiritual light is transmitted through our own little network. We become more illuminated by each other and in relation to the network, which lights up more and more. And one day, the will to good will be pouring through this triangle network when we finally understand what the will to good is. And we are building a planet and a solar system which is becoming increasingly spiritualized. And our own little work with our own little triangles is very, very important for our individual life, our group life, finally for humanity as a group, finally for the planet. So let's take these things seriously, and every day, even if briefly, you visualize your triangles you're working with, and you try to hold that image and say the great invocation with depth and meaning, with intensity of feeling, as Master DK says. And thus we make our real contribution. And we will close here with the great invocation in which some major triangles are occurring, as you can see. So wherever you are, you can say it out loud. You're on mute, so it won't, make that cacophony of voices, but say it out loud where you are, and with yourself on self-mute, and we'll end with the great invocation. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Well, thank you, everybody. And in terms of what's coming up tonight on the evening schedule, we have our Dissipation of Glamour webinar. So it'll be the 5 p.m. GMT schedule. And then the next morning, Tuija will broadcast a Soul of Nations meditation. And then the next, wait, it's evening, isn't it? It's evening. I hope I'm correct about that. We're on the evening schedule now. Yes. So that's the 5 p.m. schedule. On Saturday, Soul of Nations, and on Sunday, the 5 p.m. schedule, Attracting Money for Hierarchical Purposes. And I do leave you with the idea, fix it in your mind. There is a way that you can come and be in person at the conference in Chandler, Arizona. I certainly hope so. Love to see many of you there, and some of you I can already see will be there and presenting astrologically and involved in all kinds of good things. So I invite you, we all invite you. It would be lovely to see you there. Okay, friends, that'll be it. And a little bit later, my tomorrow morning, but it's whatever it is, it'll be the Dissipation of Glamour webinar. And we'll be dealing with some glamour or other, we've been working on all the lying that's going on and the falsification and misrepresentation of the truth and the veiling power that wants to protect the personality from the soul. I think given what's going on today in the public life, we really need to continue with that. Thank you so much. Lots of love, many blessings, and we'll see you in not so many hours from now. Bye-bye.